Sexual harassment in the workplace is a topic today in our ongoing series. We call it Issues That Matter. The subject, as you know, is dominating headlines as people share their personal stories of harassment. Nearly 70 women have come forward with accusations against Harvey Weinstein. That followed reporting by New York Times correspondent and CBS News contributor Jodi Kantor and another reporter, Megan Twohey. They exposed decades of Weinstein's alleged harassment.
The Times technology reporter Katie Benner spent months digging into sexual harassment claims of women entrepreneurs in Silicon Valley. And business reporter Emily Steele and a colleague investigated the nearly $50 million known to have been spent on settling sexual harassment claims against former Fox News star Bill O'Reilly. Jodi Kantor, Katie Benner, and Emily Steele join us now. Good morning. Great to have all of you here, and congratulations on all of your incredible reporting. Jodi, let me start with you because you broke the Weinstein story about a month ago now. It's incredible to see essentially this tsunami now of accusations that have come as a result, I think, of sort of the hashtag #MeToo, the sharing, the idea that you could share the story and that it would be reported fairly and accurately.
Yes. I think one sort of meaning of the Weinstein story is that it is important to come forward because we've now established a 40-year timeline of allegations. So for people who knew about his behavior early on, some of them, like Quentin Tarantino, have come forward publicly and said, I should have said something much earlier. And so part of what the Weinstein demonstrates is that even though coming forward can be very, very hard for a woman, there can potentially be a cost to other people of not doing it.
Katie, you gave, I thought, a very graphic, descriptive analogy about sexual harassment in Silicon Valley. You said this, it's like a healthy-looking log. It's like turning over a healthy-looking log to find decay and bugs underneath. What made the women you spoke to decide, I'm speaking out and I'm speaking out now?
Well, part of it was the reporting that Emily and Michael Schmidt had done around Fox. So their story came out in April. And after that happened, in the newsroom, we saw the story and we thought this is a bigger issue than just Fox. We really need to dive into it. We had a lot of meetings about it. And as I reached out to women in Silicon Valley, I would send them Emily's story. And they would read it and they would see how seriously we took the issue. And some of them came to me and said that they'd read it on their own and that it made them and inspired them to speak out. So I think part of it was what Jodi said, this sort of chorus of voices gathering over the course of the year. It was really, really powerful.
I mean, Emily, you first reported, sorry, Charlie, you first reported those allegations against Bill O'Reilly and at Fox News. How much has changed since then?
I think a lot has changed. I think when we were doing our reporting, it was kind of at this time last year, we were still digging up information, still trying to get people to talk to us. People were very hesitant to talk about this issue, and it was really hard. We had one woman who went on the record with her story. It was very hard to convince her to do that. I flew out to LA and did a Pilates class with her to build a relationship, to try to get her to talk and to tell her that so many other women had been silenced and how important it was that she had a voice. She really needed to talk. And what we've seen now with Katie's reporting and Jodi and Megan's reporting is that people are talking more about this issue. Women are finding their voices, but also the world is listening to them.
They also know they'll be believed.
And how are corporations changing? How are institutions changing? You know, and what is, I mean, it's such a historic change. What is the emerging definition
of sexual harassment? Well, that's one thing that we've talked a lot about, is that the actual legal definition of sexual harassment is quite gray, and that there are these standards that the behavior needs to be severe and pervasive and have a negative impact on your career in order to bring a legal case. And that's one of the issues that's really complicated this whole subject.
Do you think people are confused? Because I think there are times somebody can say something lewd and inappropriate, but it doesn't mean that you are being harassed in a sexual manner. That's just somebody who's just a jerk and you want nothing to do with him. Do you think that we have to have very specific things about what sexual harassment means in the workplace?
Well, I think what we see now, and we saw this working together as a team and kind of developing our reporting together in private, is that there are a lot of strong patterns to what's happening that are coming into view now. In all of our stories, there were women who were pretty junior in their careers who were allegedly harassed by more senior men. And the problem is that young women's careers can be cut off, and this can have an impact on who rises and succeeds in the workplace. We saw very common means of intimidation. Emily and Megan and I all reported a lot on settlements, and you reported a lot on non-disclosure agreements. And so working together, it was more than just looking at Fox or at Weinstein or at Silicon Valley. What we were trying to get at was the bigger picture of why is this system broken and what are the common patterns across all of these different industries.
Are NDAs, guys, part of the problem? Because I don't think any woman who signs an NDA thinks that she could be jeopardizing or hurting another woman.
NDA being a non-disclosure agreement.
And it's not just that it's part of the problem because it jeopardizes someone else, it also jeopardizes yourself. I spoke with lots of people who signed NDAs who regretted it almost immediately. They really felt like they had been treated unfairly, and oftentimes they're undervalued. I talked to a woman who signed an NDA, and the amount of money she got was a pittance. They compensated her for her therapy bills to deal with what had happened to her. And when she really stepped back after it happened right after the incident, she felt very, very sad and depressed. She was not in a good negotiating position. And then a few months later, she realized she'd really only been given, I think, $10,000 for a lifetime of silence.
Do these agreements have legal standing?
So there's debate over that now. There have been some attorneys who've come out and said that you can break them, and the consequences are not as dire as your workplace would have you believe.
I've heard you say, Katie, this is more than just a he said, she said story. You see it economically as well.
Oh, absolutely. Like if you look at where the consequences have been, so with Weinstein, the consequences were severe and swift, and with Emily's story, the consequences were very severe for Bill O'Reilly because there was a lot of economics at stake there. The advertisers pulled out, so they couldn't support those people. In Silicon Valley, a lot of these investors own their own businesses. So where is the economic impact there? One of the people I covered, he'd already shut down his investment firm, so there's been no negative impact for him. And
you know, I think some of the reporting that all of you have done, though, is not only exposed not just the courage for women to speak out, that you have institutional, systematic lawyers and everybody in place to stop this from going anywhere. With Fox and with Bill O'Reilly, he said no one ever had a complaint against him. He had it written in his contract that he couldn't be fired over an allegation that wasn't proven in court.
Right, and what we know is when Fox renewed O'Reilly's contract in February of this year, the company knew of 6 allegations against him. And we now know that those settlements for those 6 allegations have totaled $45 million.
And Jodi, in Harvey Weinstein's contract that was negotiated with the Weinstein company, that also had some protections for him.
Absolutely. So you begin to ask who negotiated that contract and what incidents did they know about and what were they protecting against and what were they trying to bury. The kind of moral gravity of our story shifted when we found the 2015 memo written by Lauren O'Connor that detailed sexual harassment in the company. It was pages and pages long, a lot of detailed descriptions. And here this brave woman had come forward within the company and her complaint had essentially been buried.
Well,
right. These are not rumors.
Will this lead to changes? That's what everybody wants to know. We have this conversation. What now is going to change?
Well, the hope, first of all, is that more women will feel comfortable coming forward and that the shame and stigma, which, you know, part of our teamwork over the years was really about getting women comfortable with coming forward and making them feel like they were part of something larger and strategizing about how we could treat our sources as sensitively as possible, but also give them strength and confidence in telling their stories. So hopefully that is something that is a little easier now. But I think there are also big policy questions on the table, right? I mean, should NDAs be used to cover up abuse or harassment? Should companies be required to report settlements so that there's some sort of public trail about what happened?
All right, Jodi Kantor, Emily Steele, Katie Benner, thank you all. We really appreciate it.
Yes.